Hi, and welcome to the Sharpen Podcast. I'm Dan Cooper, today's host, and I am with the other host that you
Let's
hear
go.
on the other side of this, Steve Van Diest. And today we're celebrating the 50th podcast that we've done for Acumen. Steve, well done, man.
And we snuck it in, yes. I think you pulled off a few more than I did, and we're celebrating about 15 years this month of Acumen.
That's right.
So
Acumen is 15 years old, coming up in this month, which is also exciting. So we'll take a little bit of a walk down memory lane, if you will, from a lessons learned standpoint. And if you're listening to this, hey, Acumen is a peer advisory team that comes alongside you to sharpen, challenge, and inspire on your business journey. So let's just jump straight in, man. So 15 years is a long time. And although neither you or I have been here for all 15, it's been a good decade. And so over those last years, what are some of the big lessons learned that you've learned, not only about owners and CEOs, but just in general?
Well, the thing that attracted me, 2021, the founder, Diest, found me, and I was still exiting. I was about to exit my last company, and this is one of the biggest lessons learned for me. I was in the mattress industry for about 15 years, and then manufacturing for about 7. I was just ending, and so I meet this guy, and that was the key piece there. I meet this guy. We didn't talk acumen at all, but there was a sense of affinity to what he had gone through before as a father, as a business owner, as a husband, as just a person that I really enjoyed. And literally walking to his car, he goes, "I got to tell you about something. I think you'd be good at it." And I go, "What is it?" And he didn't tell me. He shuts the door and drives off. And so then a couple months later, I'm learning about Acumen, and I'm learning about the secret sauce, the history, and the lessons learned. But what grabbed me right away was the person. And then a couple months later, I fly out to meet you. I meet a few other our growth catalysts. And so the lesson learned for me is these growth catalysts are top notch. Former business owners, they sat in the seat, godly men, people that I want to be friends with. So for my first lesson from day one was I want to be around these growth catalysts. And if their members want to be around, because they were already 10 years old by the time I got there, if there's the 130 at that time members, then I want to be around the whole community. It was something I missed as a business owner. So that's my lesson number one, top notch people.
So I'll add on to that. Acumen is what I wish I was in when I had a company.
Yes.
I wish it was something that existed. So I know how not to do everything. And so I'll take it from a member perspective then. It was interesting to me, we see everybody on the outside. And once you get into a room and people start putting their worst foot forward and putting their trash on the table, and because life is complicated, everyone is faking it. Whether you're $1 million in revenue or $50 million in revenue, if you're a CEO and you're doing it right, you're always a little confused because you're doing something new. And you've never done it before because you're growing and evolving and adding things and subtracting things. And so we're all faking it. And it's nice to know that. Now, the second thing I would say is we're all also awesome in one or two very specific ways. So you sit around the table and there's someone who's can do 8-figure math in their brain, and somebody just breathes sales, and somebody else is an operational guru. So not only are we all faking it, we all have superpowers, and it's fun to see those things collide when you put people in a room.
I remember the first time, and now I've sat in over 200 councils, maybe. How did I do? Or no, 200. I've watched 200 situations. Over 200 business situations get thrown at each other. But one of the first ones is I sat on one of your councils, and I wouldn't call necessarily some of the people. There was a young 40-year-old, and then there was a older gentleman. And I remember them presenting a situation about a sell and a not sell and all this kind of stuff. And the young guy, and you were facilitating magically, the young guy called out and poked the guy in the chest and said, the problem is not the business and the transaction, the contract, whatever the scenario was. He goes, the problem's you. And I remember going, this happens? Because that didn't happen with bourbon buddies, cigar buddies, church buddies that were sitting around and maybe talking a little bit about our business, usually because we're all faking it in those scenarios. Yeah. And I literally went to the bathroom. We went to the bathroom break and had a break. And I looked at someone and I go, is that normal? And now I've watched it over and over and over again of men and women that when they don't fake it can go, I need this. And so I had a gentleman 4 years ago. I met him at a wonderful kind of a bourbon night here in town and a lot of business leaders. And he goes, no. And I think he said no to me for about 2 or 3 years. He said, no, I'm going to find something on my own. Recently, one of my new members who has been transformed by the community on one of our teams pings me and says, hey, so-and-so is ready. I go, why do you think he's ready? He goes, because it doesn't exist out there. And he goes, what I've experienced doesn't exist out there on its own. And so the peer community, it's blown me away. I've written about it recently in LinkedIn, and it cost me $800,000 in 2016 by not having good wisdom. And so I practice it as well. Yeah, I lead 2 to 3 groups, and I'm leading a community here in the Front Range of Colorado. But I sit every Tuesday night on another peer group that keeps me sharp with a bunch of men from all over the country.
So we were in a council, and there was a situation brief, and we've now stolen this phraseology. But one member stared across the table at another, and he said, "Okay, I'm about to stab you in the front."
Yeah.
And we all sat back like, holy cow, what does that even mean? And so with grace and truth, he took the knife out and said unpleasant to hear things, but very true things to this other leader. And he's like, I'm stabbing you in the front because I want you to like see the knife coming. And I want to just sit there. And so that has become vernacular. It's one of our values. We've changed it to iron sharpens iron because having violence in your values is dangerous. You shouldn't have violence in your values. So it's iron sharpens iron, but stabbing you in the front with grace and truth is so hard and yet so meaningful and impactful. So it's funny that as you say that was the thing that popped up.
Have you seen it on the flip side of it as well, where it's, and Dan, you do a masterful job in many of the growth cows, because I've sat on councils and watched just to constantly refine my craft. You do a great job of holding posture and letting the room go. But have you seen it in the opposite, where someone's really hurting and then the room stops? And so it's not a poking, but it's a coming alongside, because it's one of our values is also love God, love others. Yeah. Have you seen that? Do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's interesting. All it takes is one person to open the kimono, if you will, and to start talking about things. And what's interesting is it's usually a personal example. So it's something called the battle assessment, where we ask people questions about business, but only also personal and spiritual. And darn it, if we wouldn't have asked like, how is your personal life going? He's like, hey, I got a cancer diagnosis. There was a timeline, and he had not told anyone other than his wife and his children, and so the room just stops, right? Ended up actually laying hands. This is kind of the first time in a long time. I'm a Catholic kid, so the whole like laying hands on people and praying is a little awkward for me, and yet the whole room gets up, and says something. So those moments where that, hey, we're not just talking about the business at this point, but it's now just life and death.
Yeah. I remember it was last year, same thing in that battle assessment. It's a half an hour of experience that we do in council. And we go through a thing called soul score. It's like all this great stuff on the outside, revenue, cash flow, people, hiring, it's all going well. And this person shared, I'm a 2, and I've had some dark thoughts lately. And literally the room looks at me, because I miss some things, because I'm not the chief end of all things in the room. The room looks at me and says, Steve, stop. Same thing. And someone went in because someone had just lost a friend that said something very similar and lost a friend weeks prior. So the room stopped, came over, loved, listened, and prayed. And so you can't script that. Yet the business was going well, but there was something going on inside, and the room stops. And I love when heaven and earth meet at the same place in council.
So when I first started in Acumen, I tried to keep a lot of things separate. I'm like, hey, listen, my social life really shouldn't mix with these. These are people I'm serving. I was trying to make sure that they all didn't do too much business together, because it's a community, and what's a community full of conflict. And so a bunch of people start doing life together, and then they start doing business together. Business has money tied into it. I had money tied into it. And I would say 10 years later, uh, I just mix it all up, and like the social and the personal and the business. It's better, messier. And that's something I didn't do in the beginning that now I just lean into full force, and it has enriched all the things, all the
You've
things.
taught me so much about that because when I've come and visited you in Kansas City for quarterly meetings or our annual holiday party, I'm meeting members that you led and facilitated for years. And now I've become good friends with some of those members at Kansas City. So when they come out here, I'm hosting them in my cigar lounge because it's client, there's no wall. It's not member, growth catalyst. And I also remember you guys saying, "Oh yeah, we don't do business transactions," but they all start trusting each other. They're like, if I want to do a deal with somebody, I want to do it that guy because he showed me all the dark side. So it's gotten messier, but I remember coaching a new member this past year within a year. And I said something about my friends, and he goes, "Wait, well, I thought I was your friend." And it caught me. I'm going, "You're right. You've become my friend in a short few months. And even though I'm your coach." And so it's a, it's an interesting mix on how to create that. But then seeing some of them, they invited me finally last month. They all do their kind of lunches together and either grab a drink or a coffee. And they looked at me and said, "Why aren't you coming?" I go, "I've never been invited." And so they invited me last week, and it was rich. It was just real humans. It was different than council. But to
Yeah.
see that go on, and I got to almost kind of peek into their world a little bit as a growth catalyst and regional president. It was gift.
Yeah, so there's a moniker out there that talks about loneliness, and I don't think it's lonely because you're with people. You're like you have a team, you have clients and customers and all those things, but it is isolating, and
Yeah.
so to realize how many people are isolated in their company, we like to call them real friends and deal friends. So I had the fortunate or unfortunate story of I was CEO one day and I was not the next day, and I learned very quickly when you lose a platform how many people are actually really your friend and how many are deally your friend. And
Yeah.
so life happens in between, right? We have all these meetings and all these things, and so the real rich stuff happens in between, and that was a hard lesson to learn. And so I vouched to never let that get to that point again. And so it's something that we try to instill, in our members. Hey, you need deal friends, right? And those, but man, when you get invited to the thing, that's where real life happens. It's not the running in to and from the meeting. Yes, we're going to work on big stuff and move growth and big things forward, but it's the in between stuff. And it's when like you meet each other's spouses and
Yeah.
you just hang out for a minute. That's where all the real rich value comes.
I'm thinking, I've only done this for 5 years. I think there may, just in our small community here in Colorado that's growing, it's grown by 5 babies in the last 5 years, 5 to 6 babies. So we've got some grand Acumen babies. And I have to remember, and I've said this to you in year two when we were starting this out here, just about to start year two, Acumen is not the focus. They're the focus.
Yeah.
These 170 business owners and businesses and companies from small to big, they're the focus. We're not the centerpiece. And so we're just helping facilitate so much growth and life change and relationships. And when the tears flow, we're providing an environment where they can be safe and help each other. And when the arrogance flows, man, that sword comes out.
So there's that just makes me think about like what are the real issues that people end up putting on the table. And so the joke now is we have four things that are a huge challenge in Acumen. It's people, it's people, and then it's finance, right? Because most
Yes.
people come and they're like, I understand my cash flow. You're explain it to me, and then they stare at you. Or they'll send you their financials to put up on the screen to have everybody look at it for their spotlight session. And they're like, "Hey, I'm not sure how to pull this out of QuickBooks." And you're like, "Okay, I haven't gotten it from my accountant, not from 90 days ago." Like, all right, this is a challenge. So it's always people challenges, right?
Yeah.
We're people, they're people, and finance is for whatever reason, like those are the things that
Yeah.
drive all of
And,
the.
and And people go, "What's my ROIs?" And I said, "Well, it's going to be, sometimes I'm like, it's going to be 10x to maybe even 50 or 100x. And
Yeah.
an example is, yeah, it's people, had a franchisor, just had put in CEO and COO in place and moved to chairman of the board, and it got hostile. The new leadership got hostile with the owner who had all, and that was the first people problem. And it was people for almost a year. And once that, and it was bringing those situations up with holy sleepless nights, all the stuff. And you can't put a dollar sign on that. But then the next year, a small investment company in town says, hey, we want to actually partner with you. You've cleaned some of your stuff up. You got rid of some of the people stuff. And I remember the deal being like 23% of company. It was a smaller company. And it was going to be an investment for like $1.2 million. And in humility, one of the smartest leaders I've ever worked with. Young, brilliant, talented, smart, good looking, all of it. And but humble enough to say, what do you guys think of the deal? And the room was split. Take the money, do it as the deal was presented to you. The other one's like, no, push back. You're going to be worth 100 million. It was this great tension in the room. And so there was really no conclusion. This is what you're supposed to do. And within weeks, the owner's like, I'm doing both. I push back on the investment company and just with that little 30-minute conversation in council about advice, same percentage, 300K more. And so now I go, well, I guess you're in like 20 to 30% ROI for your investment this year, and you presented one issue so far. And so I look at it going, gosh, there's so much, and you can't put a tension of the people tension, the business partner tensions. How do you put a number to that when you get counsel from, I don't know, it's just business partners that are your spouse,
Yes.
or bought from my parent and now parents meddling.
Yes.
It's like, how do you put numbers to that? And it's like,
Yeah. If your ROI is, I still talk to my parents at Christmas or Thanksgiving,
yes.
or we can talk about something else besides the business, and they still want to see their grandkids. Yeah. I
Or you have teenagers.
yeah.
I just got rid of my last teenager in love, who's now a sophomore in college. So
Yes.
ask your 16-year-old, if you're a father and you're an owner of a company, ask your 16-year-old son what he thinks of you.
Oh, did did you do that on purpose? Like, did you get an answer for that? Is that real?
Oh, I didn't have to ask. They told me because I was in the, and so even as last couple of months we've celebrated Father's Day. Now in hindsight, my kids, who I've got a couple entrepreneurs now, moving into the space saying, hey, even though I didn't have an acumen, they watched me go through it and the stress. But we want to provide a room where can we ask each other what their teenagers are thinking of each other or of themselves, because that's a scary place for a 15, 16-year-old teenage boy or girl to tell their parent, you're actually not a good parent, or you're a great parent, or I don't know. It's got to be real.
One of the favorite things that we do is get we'll have spouse dinners, right? Like you go home, you tell these whoever's sitting around the dinner table all these weird people that you hang out with, and so they're like, okay, I guess whatever businessy thing you're doing, and then eventually they're like, let's meet these people, and so we'll all get together. And one spouse one time was like, I love it. He's a better person because of going
Yes.
to Acumen, and it's because we're not bringing it home and dumping it on our spouse, because yes, are they great listeners? Yes, do they know us better than anyone else, and
Yeah.
can they give us, but you can't bring it all to, they should be a part of the big things, because of course they know you in a way that nobody else does at the same time. And so I wonder, what would kids say, when we come home and we're a little bit more patient, or we coach instead of tell. The
Yeah.
biggest thing I've learned in Acumen is the difference between coaching and consulting, and when to use either. And I coach so much more now than I ever have, and asking my children a question versus telling them the answer. It's kind of that seek to understand. When I remember that, I'm such a better husband, father, family member, spouse, all the things.
Just 2 weeks ago, I should have listened to Dan years ago. Don't coach your spouse, which really is not coaching. It's just being a pain in the butt husband, and it's more consulting. We had a brawl in a restaurant about 2 weeks ago, and eventually it turned into tears. And because we couldn't just walk off to another bedroom, or we just sat and we worked through it. A lot of humility and forgiveness, but yeah, don't try to coach your children or your spouse.
So I mean, if you've ever done a strategic plan or a one-page plan for your business, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
VTO. I brought some of those concepts home, and some people are more apt to want to try those things and to plan their life. And so I didn't know, but I do know now that I am actually not the CEO of my house. I'm like a VP. I might not even be a VP. But yes, the phrase in our house is like, please don't business us. And they're like, yeah, Dad, I get what you're doing. But like, can we just talk about like just, the life part of it? And so I think a lot of times, for me, especially, talk about business so often and are always looking and unpacking. So to take that stuff home actually causes challenges versus go and live. A lot of what I take from other members in Acumen, because I learn so much just by sitting in the room, is like how to just live and be, to abide,
Yeah.
or whatever word you want to look at it, versus strive, go, next,
Yeah.
AB is this kind of sit back. There are times to rest, relax, and I'm not talking about trips or vacations, but like just live in your life,
Yes.
in your
And
marriage.
and Dan, when you saying that, who's the CEO? Acumen's a faith organization, so I think oftentimes we're helping push these business owners to realize you're just stewarding something that God's given you, and it's not as we talk about what is this faith piece of Acumen. Flesh out, what does it look like? Is it we're working so we can have a better significant in the second half of our lives?
Yeah.
Is it we work so that on Sundays we can have a good ministry? Or is it so how flesh out some of the Acumen spirit of how faith is integrated into all that we do?
This is something that we did poorly in the beginning. A lot of the world, especially within ministry, is like, hey, we're evangelization or discipleship, and that's it,
Yeah.
right? And so there are many parts, but one body, right? So, there's hands and feet and eyes and ears, and they all do different things. And so the ethos is like, hey, we are business focused, right? And because everybody does something special there, so it's people and performance and profit and excellence, but we're faith infused. We want to bring our whole self, and being on the Jesus journey allows us to talk about all sorts of things. My two favorite comments are, well, I'm ethical, and you're like, yeah, but faith isn't. I mean, sure, there's an ethical component to it, but if you don't have ethics, I don't really care what you believe. Your business isn't going to go very well for very long. And then, I'm not opposed to that, which is like, okay, you're open to something deeper. And so this faith infusion is not just trying to like, hey, you got to pray at work and ministry and what are we doing? It's like, hey, how are you living this whole life? And what is Jesus calling you to? And why are you on earth? Why are you here? What are you here to do and to steward? And so, yeah, it's you got to solve problems, right? You need food, water, and safety. And that's revenue, cash flow, and profitability, right? And then
Yeah.
after that, we get to talk about big things. What's your take? So
Amen.
you have different flavor. How do you
Well,
discern that?
I'm a little bit of a unicorn. I was a 14-year missionary and then a 19-year entrepreneur continuing. And about 2010, I've got an author and professor really poked me in the chest because I was starting these mattress stores, and then on my days off, maybe a Friday and a Thursday, I was doing all I can to do ministry, and we gave away. I think in our first couple of years, we gave away $250,000, yet we're still $250,000 in debt. We didn't give away from profits, we gave away from revenue. So we were making bad business decisions, but ministries loved us. And so I was really getting pushback on what was a correct theology of work and what is the marketplace. I felt dirty because I was a mattress store. So it's kind of like there's drug lords, street workers, lawyers, used car salesmen, and mattress store owners. We were all on the bottom. So I was like, well, I'm not like a nursing center, and I'm not doing an after school teaching program, and I'm not building homes in poor areas of the town. I just felt so I had to really, and the professor goes, I don't care if you ever do evangelism. He didn't mean it that way, but evangelism or discipleship. But if just doing great business, taking care of your employees, doing good financials, doing good sales tactics, listening well to your customers, being a great tenant on your lease, that's the marketplace. And so we even challenged in the Front Range recently. We have a thing in Acumen called Advance. It's our quarterly workshop. We're bringing outside thought leaders, speakers, and authors to come in and challenge us on something that we normally don't think about. And so we brought in Denver Institute of Faith and Work because we talk sometimes in Acumen world, hey, what's your kingdom building initiative? There's KPIs and there's KBIs.
Yeah.
And it always felt like, well, I'm doing this business and here's a tack on. Here's an add-on. And I said to the author and thought leader and CEO, I said, can you challenge us that what if we actually just think about everything we do as a ministry? So it keeps us in that stained glass, plain glass, but it's just one glass. There's no longer, here's the ministry businesses and here's the non-ministry businesses. And I wouldn't say Acumen is a teaching organization. We're not telling people how to be kingdom, Jesus, ministry leaders. No. We're just providing an environment to think holistically. And so, for example, it was about year one of a new member a couple years ago. And we did one of those spouse dinner night barbecues at my house. And the ladies were off in a corner. And so this is one of these people that were on an early Jesus journey, this couple. The husband maybe saw more than the wife. And the wife my wife tells me this afterwards. And she goes, what is Acumen? What does your husband do? She goes, is it like a cult Jesus religious thing? And the other ladies kind of laughed, and my wife listened and just expressed, and she goes, no, it's a business growth community, a peer community that really takes care of the whole business leader. And it's faith value. To see this leader and his wife 2 years later be transformed with the power of the gospel and the power of Jesus, and to see it now integrated in their family, and it's you couldn't have said it. He would have never joined a group that says, we're going to tell you how to be a kingdom, Jesus, Christian business leader, and we're going to teach you. But he joined a community that shared his values, yet he didn't quite understand the whole secret sauce. And that to me is the greatest story. And we all just stopped last council about 2 weeks ago and said, you're a different man. And he goes, oh yeah, my whole family's different. So it's cool. That's the story of the evolution of how do we draw people in that are warm to our values and experience the power of it, because we're so passionate about the marketplace. I believe that if we can raise up the best CEOs, owners, leaders in a company, we will transform cities. So that's a little bit of a couple stories in there. And that's how I taste it and feel it.
That rings true for me. So, how I got here in that is I was a money, power, stuff guy. I read all the books, listened to all the podcasts, and did everything by the book. So, good culture, but my head and my heart were totally disconnected. And I wanted to figure out how to connect those together. And I needed a basis for that, because you can connect them together with lots of different things. And so faith was my connector. And so figuring out how to, because I was like, oh, I'm just going to do the same thing over and over for the next 30 years. I mean, cool, I guess. So just more of everything. And so by connecting those, you figure out, going from just creating more to impact. Some people call that a midlife crisis. I don't think most people go through crisis anymore, or at least not midlife, not the way they used to. It's more evolution, and we're a lot softer on ourselves. But yeah, if you're figuring out where your head and your heart is, this is a good place to come to.
And it goes back to how I first danced around with Acumen when I first met you and Drew. I think I didn't know what flavor of Christianity, which lollipop, if they were Catholic, charismatic, conservative, Protestant. I didn't know. All I knew was here was a group of leaders and members that were passionate about the marketplace, passionate about following God and Jesus. And that it didn't matter what flavor they were in, because there was a common thread. And so that's what locked me in. It wasn't like you're in your lane, I'm in my lane, and then we'll come together on business. And it was like, no one, it didn't matter, because what mattered was we're helping each other grow our businesses and honor God in the same process. It was really cool.
Well, this has been the most impactful thing I've done in my career, in this season. I feel that from you as well. All right. Amen. Leave our listeners with, it's interesting. We were going through kind of like lessons over this last, and really it was kind of a peeling of the onion of the impact that we can have. So I don't know, what's a moment of impact for you? We've talked about a lot of them.
It's probably the same thing a lot of our owners have to go through. It was about 3 years ago, in a series of conversations with a client, a member of Acumen, that said, you've got to surrender. and give up the ownership of this thing in the Front Range. And I'm leading him, yet he's poking me. The same time, you guys give me a very inappropriate gift for Christmas that was in so many colorful words of give it up, surrender. And my word for the year that next year was surrender. And you walked me through some prayer things to surrender. And so even as a leader of this organization in Colorado, your partner in crime, I'm going through what most of our business owners are going through as well. Surrender. Let it, you're stewarding something really magical. A company, people, payrolls, family dinners, your own family, impact. So it's this idea. So that for me personally, that hit me. And I'm hoping it flows through me to them, because it flowed from you to me and from other members to me. So I want the pass through to happen in Acumen.
I think that's a beautiful one to kind of wrap it up on. So the first 15 is pretty fun. We're growing and flowing in Kansas City, the Front Range, St. Louis, Phoenix, Wichita, and more to come. Steve, appreciate you. Like the back and forth banter. We're going to have to do this more. That was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
I think, to unplug. If you'd like to learn more about Acumen, go to acumenimpact.com. There's all sorts of fun stuff, whether you want to apply or check out some more content. We'd love to have the opportunity to sharpen, challenge, and inspire you. Thanks for being here, Steve.
Thanks, Dan. This is awesome. Happy birthday, Acumen.
Peace.